This is Living Power with Dan Hurst.
At the same time, I want us to look at this amazing event in the life of the Israelites. Now, we have been looking at these three feasts that happened in the fall. There's 7 basic feasts, and 4 feasts happened in the spring, 3 feasts happened in the fall. Their fall being essentially October and September. And the last feast is the Feast of Tabernacles. And today we are looking at what essentially is the last day of that celebration. The temple had been built, the sacrifices had been restored, the wall around Jerusalem was finished. They had just celebrated these 3 fall feasts, and now they're on this last day of the Feast of Tabernacles. And on this day, they celebrate this very special day with some impressive pomp and circumstances. And they begin the day with some purification sacrifices. As you read Nehemiah, you begin to see this, that there's some purification sacrifices. Then when they finished with that, 2 large choirs and musicians lined up at different points on the wall. Now I want you to see something on this map. On the map, this is a map of this darker wall is the old wall, the wall that they built. This wall we'll talk about in just a moment. That's a newer wall. But they lined up on this was the city of Jerusalem. Right in the middle here was where the temple had been built. And around Jerusalem, not everybody lived right next to it. People lived in the entire area around Jerusalem. And in fact, a number of, as you read Nehemiah 12, you read that a number of the musicians had built villages for themselves around in this area, which I think that's kind of cool. I bet their high schools had great choral groups. And so they, it was just these groups of people that had their common purposes and their common interests had built up their own little villages. But they all came together, and they were all part of this. And so Nehemiah lines them up, and he lines 2 different choirs. And the first choir lines up somewhere around in here, and they march down this wall, and they come down here, and they come to this outer wall, and we don't know if they went around here or not that it matters, but then they go up this wall, back up again here, and then they line up like this, right along this wall here. The second group starts right over here at this Tower of the Ovens area, right here, and they go all the way up this wall, around like this, and then they line up right around here somewhere. It may have been right there, and it may have been right there, and it may have been that whole corner there. And if you will get the idea, they're above all of the people above the temple now for this incredible celebration. And the rest of the congregation now is in the entire area around the temple, and above them, if you can take the picture here, like here we are, let's say this was the temple, and here we are in front of the temple, and around us, above us, is these 2 big giant choirs, and they're musicians, and they're singing, and they're worshiping, and they're praising. So it must have been incredibly impressive. Now, I want to point out something that will help you understand, and this is really kind of parenthetical, but it will kind of help you connect the two things together. I want to help you understand what's kind of going on in Jerusalem today, especially given the current news about the battle that's going on in the Gaza border right now. As of this morning, I believe I read this right. It was almost 500 rockets have been fired in the last 4 days at Israel. Israel, of course, is attacking Gaza. You've been reading the news. They've been attacking some of these sites where these rockets are launched from. Gaza has launched some 12,000 rockets in the last 12 years, essentially. And it's just, and finally Israel is just saying, okay, enough's enough, we're going to put a stop to it. Curiously, this is the first time that I can remember where the majority of the world is saying, well, Gaza, you brought it on yourself. And so there hasn't been a whole lot of like, oh, Israel, they're just evil, they're wicked, they've got to stop this. There is some of that that's going on, but not near as much as there has in the past. And so Israel announced today that they know, and they've amassed some troops on the border, the Gaza border. A lot of the numbers that you're reading in the media are inflated. There are a couple of sources that I really trust, and I was looking at those this morning, and basically what it's saying is somewhere around 4,000 troops already on the Gaza border, and they have called up close to 30,000 for basically a draft, is really kind of what it amounts to, and to prepare in case there is a ground assault. But a ground assault is not, it's safe to say that it's imminent, but it is, the timing of it is probably not real immediate, because there's so much that they can still do with air cover and with air attacks. And Israel has announced, look, we know where these buildings and these buildings and these buildings are. We know where these homes are that are the Hamas leaders. We know so forth and so on. They're not announcing where they are, but they're saying, we know where they are. And those are going to get shelled if you guys don't come to the table. And we don't find a way to resolve this and stop it. And all Israel is asking is for them to stop firing rockets. And that's all they're asking for. They're not asking for the land back. They're not asking for anything else. They're just asking for them to stop firing rockets at it. That's all they're asking for. And so, interestingly enough, Egypt has kind of tried to step in and try to mediate some peace here. And Egypt, Morsi, the new president of Egypt, has said, yeah, we need to come to some conclusion here. And he's actually pointed fingers at Gaza and said, you guys need to stop this. You guys need to get this, you know, Israel's the bad guy, but you guys need to stop this, which is kind of an interesting way of putting it. But so that's what's going on right now. But through the years, Jerusalem has, and I wanted to mention, Gaza has actually, for the first time, actually fired rockets at Jerusalem. There were 3 rockets that were fired yesterday. I don't know if anything has been fired in the last few hours or not. But there were 3 of them that were fired at Jerusalem. I'm not laughing at this because it really is very sad. But what they were basically saying was, we've got rockets that can reach Jerusalem from Gaza. The only problem was, the only one that they know of that landed in right next to a Palestinian settlement. And so it was like, oops, you know, that's, yeah, you've got rockets that can reach it, but you don't know how to get them there. That's, you know, it's kind of a problem. So, yes, sir. Yes, well, there have been rockets landing closer and closer to Tel Aviv now. They do know that they've got rockets within that range for Tel Aviv. And so, and by the way, you know, there's a big discussion about this all the time, you know, and this is the political stupidity of the whole thing, where countries will not recognize that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. You know, and they say Tel Aviv is the capital, and Jerusalem is going, what? No, Jerusalem is our capital. This is where the Knesset is. This is where everything is. You know, this is who we are. This is what we are. It's all about Jerusalem, and everybody's saying, oh, no, Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. It's like somebody telling us, well, Washington D.C. isn't your capital, Birmingham is.